I want the Minister to weigh up all of the options, including nationalisation. I'm afraid that he has chosen to rule out that option for entirely misguided reasons, and so now he runs a huge risk of loading a grossly excessive burden on our present and future taxpayers. And I want to talk a little bit about taxation. I have talked about tax justice till I am blue in the face. The McCaughey case has highlighted this week how easy, how normal in the world of tax planners and tax lawyers it was to set up perfectly legal, legitimate tax scheme to avoid a modest 20% tax on a 25 million euro profit. And remember, a lot of the people who made money during the boom years of the Celtic Tiger, they didn't want lower taxes like the Labour Party accepted. They wanted not low taxation, they wanted no taxation. 20% on 25 million mightn't sound that much to us and to somebody paying 41%. But in the world where it's legitimate to pay no tax, if you're rich enough and if you're clever enough, it's acceptable to do that. A whole industry has developed among tax accountants and lawyers to facilitate this, with the connivance of Fianna Fáil finance ministers over the past 12 years. This has to end. It has to end right now. All the tax exile rules, you know, Cinderella had a golden coach. Our guys had helicopters and planes to lift them out by 12 o'clock. I mean, if you have an Irish passport, you should be proud to make your contribution and your fair share to paying your tax in Ireland. The tax shelter schemes, most of them, they have to go. All the fiddles to bypass capital taxes, inheritance taxes, everything that makes taxation something that's a burden that's borne largely by little people and not, as I say, by those people who have had the brains and the good fortune to do well and make money. We're proud of them for doing that. But the other part of the contract is, listen, pay your share as well. There will be no consent from taxpayers to higher taxes, to higher tax rates or levies, as long as this corrosive culture flourishes. If Brian Lenihan does not grasp this inconvenient truth, his budget will fail, as his last two budgets have failed. It's not the individual elements of the budget package that matter so much as the whole. The whole has to be greater than the sum of the parts, because both our own people and the international bondholders want to see a trend and a commitment on April the 7th. They want to see a structure that restores our finances over the period to 2013, and they want to see our banking crisis addressed. They want to see, and we want to see, our unemployment crisis addressed, and we want to see fiscal stability restored. They're the four things we have to do in a planned way in this budget, and indeed the budget for 2010, which in many ways will be much tougher than the one we're talking about in April. We can accept unpalatable measures as long as one principle is understood. Nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. That was a sound principle. That was a sound principle in the Northern Peace Process discussions, and it remains a sound principle in the preparation of this budget. So, Minister, we want the banks, we want employment, and we want fiscal stability. We want all of those issues addressed, and we want them done over a time frame out to 2013. When we see a growing effort to insist on a serious contribution to recovery from those who made fortunes in the past decade, then we can and we will ask for a proportionate and fair share of pain from the rest of society. I don't believe that economic policy is just a matter of making the budget numbers add up. It has to be rooted in a sense of values and a clear narrative about the kind of society we want to see. There is a hostile mood in the country against greed, excess, waste, tax cheating, and selfish, self-indulgent behaviour. An intolerance of binge lending by banks and vanity spending by this government for the last 11 years. The government has failed to understand this mood. There has been a marked unwillingness to date to share the burden of adjustment in a fair and a transparent way. What are Fianna Fáil afraid of? They're not afraid of the little people. They just seem to be afraid of the rich people. This is the conundrum. There has been an unwillingness to show the door to many of the directors in the banks whose actions have contributed so much to the downturn in our country's fortunes. You know, why did Brian Lenihan find it difficult to say to Mr. Fingleton and others, listen guys, you got to go? And you know, if Mr. Fingleton thinks returning the bonus somehow restores what the bankers have done, well, you know, that's for Brian Lenihan as the Minister for Finance to say. You're not getting away with those enormous pension pots. You know, some have 100 million, some have 30 million. The Minister was trying to persuade me the other day to feel sorry for some of these guys because the value of the pot has gone down. You know, this is like the welfare cheque of the $3.5 billion for AIB and Bank of Ireland. We're to feel bad if somebody who's quite poor gets support in keeping their house and their mortgage going, but we're to suspend our judgment if we hand over $7 billion to the bankers. You know, this is, I think, where the government is out of touch with what the public are understanding in terms of the cutbacks they're making. Our government has little or no political capital left to secure public acceptance of tough decisions and tough choices. It has stayed on far too long for any good it can possibly do. To Fianna Fáil, I want to say
Joan,
this.
could you conclude, please?
To Fianna Fáil, I just want to say this, Chairman. For Ireland's sake, just go, and go as soon as possible.